susunod na programa ay rated PG. Ito ay nangangailangan ng patnubay at gabay ng magulang para sa mga batang manonood.
So much to talk about with presidential spokesperson. It's good to see you again, Attorney.
It's a pleasure.
Secretary Harry Roque Jr., Attorney / Secretary / Congressman. Sir.
My pleasure. It's a good Monday morning.
Happy
Vicky,
Monday to you.
Good morning to everyone.
I know that you already said the president said no to a possible term extension, but I'm going to start with this. That this talk of charter change and the shift to a federal form of government, has there been talks between you and the president on any directive towards this, sir?
Well, he has said it, no? And my task as a spokesperson is only to repeat what he has said publicly. He has said that if we are able to amend the Constitution to provide for provisions, no, that would strengthen institutional safeguard against graft and corruption, that he would want to cut short his term, no? So what he has said is, if the Constitution is amended, you know, so that it would be more responsive to the needs of the people, he's willing to let go, no? Because he's not keen really on staying as president. That's the truth, no?
In fact, during his sauna, sir, I think it was the last sauna, when he said that, you know, if there's a shift to a federal form of government, aalis na siya sa posisyon if there is somebody in place.
In other words, he wants to make institutional changes, particularly on the Constitution, and that appears to be his short-term, medium, long-term objective. No, if that's met, then there's no use for him to stay. But he has never, ever said that he is willing to stay 1 minute longer beyond his term in 2022.
I heard you say that during the press conference, and I have to say that, yes, I've heard that a number of times, that he does not want to stay in power. However, it's the same president who also said in the past that he was not going to run for president, and he did. What assurance can you give those who are probably doubting that the president wants to stay longer in office that this will not happen, sir?
Well, let's just say that he loves Davao very much. He can't stand Manila. And really, the moment that he can go back home to his home by the sea, he would take that opportunity, no? Anytime.
So, you're 101% sure he will say no to a term extension?
Oh,
Not
yes.
even a day longer, sir?
Not even a day longer. To him, that's the ultimate nightmare.
Really?
He just wants to finish his term. He wants to give it his best shot, and that's it.
Okay, but all this talk on a no election, is this something the president was aware of? That Speaker Alvarez would say something like, there's a possibility that the midterm elections among senators might not happen.
Well, that's why we've had to say that the president's position is he's against any term limits. He's against Noel. You know, the president, after all, was mayor of Davao for almost 30 years. He's used to running in elections, and he's not lost an election, no? But the point is, he's not running in another election, and that's why he sees no benefit really in Noel, no?
So he's against a Noel scenario in 2019?
He is the chief implementer of the Constitution, and because of this, he will abide by the terms of the Constitution. When the Constitution says that the next election will be in May of 2019, he will implement that. And he promises that the next elections in 2019 will be the cleanest that we'll ever have.
So that's where I wanted to go, because when you answered that, you said that the Constitution provides elections in 2019 unless amended.
Unless amended.
So let's go to that, Secretary Harry Roque.
Sure.
What is unless amended? I mean, I know what that means, but are you saying that the possibility of a no election can happen if the Constitution is amended, sir?
Well, I think the Senate President was rather specific in this regard, if the President accepts it, no? Because it depends. If the President will say, I'll just leave you, no, and go, no? There's no one that can compel him to stay beyond his term of office, no? But he has said that he will not, no? And that's why they could amend it. They could provide for transitory provisions that a president will stay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that president will be President Digong Duterte.
Yeah,
it could be Leni Robredo, no?
But really? But what if the president wants it? I'm sorry. What if the people want him to stay? That call for him to want to stay at least for a couple of, I don't know, months or a year.
Well,
is that not going to change his mind at all?
I think the contract with the people is to serve until 2022, and that's why he will honor it, because it is his constitutional duty, unless there's a way out earlier. What he prefers, in fact, is a constitutional change that would cut short his term.
Yeah. He said
rather
that,
than lengthen it.
Yeah.
You know, alam mo talaga,
Cutting it short, not extending it.
Oh, he's a creature of habit, eh. And he is so at ease in Davao. He ran. He has his reasons for running. He has said it over and over again that he was provoked into running because of a wrong Supreme Court decision, and he's implementing his electoral promise, which really is not much. No? It's really the fight against drugs, it's really the fight against corruption and the economy.
Yeah.
And that's it to him.
But
There's no
he-
attraction to perpetrate himself in office. No, he even accepted his son's own resignation.
Yeah, we're going to go to that. But does he have a particular model in mind for a federal form of government, sir?
Well,
has
he
talked
has
to you about
said
that?
that he likes France, although France is not a federal form of government. France, though, has a strong president elected by everyone, but it has more or less decentralized powers. No? But so he goes with a president who is directly elected by the people. He doesn't want a prime minister who's elected only by representatives, but he does realize that unless you give the resources to local government units, the LGUs will never get what they need.
So what does he want? He wants a president elected.
He wants a president elected, and he wants a decentralized form of government where resources will go automatically to LGUs. Eh kasi naman, Pinky, isang barangay road that cost 1 million, kinakailangan DPWH Manila pa. Whereas our municipal mayors and governors have the capacity to do the same road anyway. So why give it to the national government when you can give it already to local government units?
Why do you seem to understand it now, Secretary? Because doing my research, you were against charter change, right?
Well, yes, I was, of course, no, that was my prior declaration as citizen Harry Roque, no. But two things, no, and this is for real. It's not just because I became a
What made
a
you change your
spokesperson, no.
mind?
The issue of decentralizing resources and power, no. I've been a counsel for the province of Palawan on the Malampaya funds. Since 2002, we've sued the national government for the rightful share of Palawan, which according to the local government code is 40% gross of all revenues derived by Malampaya. We've never gotten it, no? And the reason, I suppose, is because there's really a natural resistance on the part of a central government to share resources with LGUs, no? Now, so I propose, instead of waiting for a court decision, a bill in Congress. I called it BRAVE, the Budgetary Reform for Village Empowerment, where we give more resources to LGUs.
Okay.
It was opposed by my own colleagues in Congress. And the reason was they don't want to give up the power to identify projects. And therefore, unless you have charter change, it will never happen that LGUs will be given
That made you
enough
change your
funds.
mind?
No? I saw it. I saw how opposed to the idea my colleagues in Congress were. And I said, it's hopeless. They'll
Okay.
never give it up.
So there are two things you said. You want, there were two things that made you change your mind.
Well,
What's the
another
second
thing
one?
is the case of Dr. Mandanas also, no, which is to recompute the amount of IRA, no,
Yeah.
because customs duties and other national taxes are excluded from the computation. No? So there's always a resistance to share the resources with LGUs. And the reality is the LGUs know best. And they also have the capacity to implement projects faster. No? Our problem perennially is underspending. Hopefully, this will not be a problem under the Duterte administration. No? But why will we not have the problem of decentralization when it's the DPWH that does all infra works, not just for DPWH, but for DepEd, for DSWD, for
Everyone
DOH,
else.
everyone
Yeah.
else.
So the president wants the president elected. What about the prime minister?
I don't think he even wants a prime minister.
He doesn't want a
no.
prime minister.
He wants a strong president elected by the people.
Does he want a bicam or a unicam?
Well, you know, I have not really heard him comment on this. No, what I have heard is the PDP proposal where we retain the Senate but elected on a regional basis.
Yes.
So
That's
but
Senator
he's been-
Aquilino Pimentel,
Yes, but
the
he's
father.
been quiet on unilateral or
Bicam.
bicameral. No. He just wants a strong president. He wants federalism because he wants more resources for
Yeah.
LGUs. Having been a mayor, he knows
Yeah.
by experience that it's not enough for LGUs to spend their own funds, that you have to get the national funds and give it to the local
So
government.
if we were to follow that model, the PDP Laban model, that would be about, I don't know, sir, I don't remember, but something like 15 regions possibly, or 16 regions,
Yes,
something like
yes,
that.
17, I believe. no?
As proposed by the father
As proposed.
of Senate President. Okay, but because of talk of no L or charter change or a shift to federal form of government, you have Vice President Leni Robredo saying, she's opposed to this, saying that the elections is provided for in the Constitution. The former Senate President Franklin Drilon also saying this is laying the groundwork for the Senate's abolition. Do you think this is true, sir?
Well, the president can only agree with both of them, no? I mean, which proves that really the opposition does not have the monopoly of good policies, no? The president is against Noel. The president is against term extension. So where's the debate? No debate with other people, not the president.
But when you have Speaker Alvarez criticizing the work of the Senate and Senator Franklin Drilon saying that this is a prelude to the abolition of the Senate, What do you think of that?
I don't think there's factual basis because the PDP Laban draft retains the Senate and makes the elections on a regional basis. I mean, come on. PDP Laban is the official party of the president. If they wanted to abolish the Senate, they would have said so. And of course, we have the political will of the president if we want to push it. No, but there's no such proposal.
Yeah, and there's no talk
And there's no talk.
of the abolition of the Senate.
So far, none of the proposals I've seen, no, at least coming from PDP Laban, suggest that. No? And the reason, of course, is practical. How will you convince the senators to agree to charter change if they're going to abolish themselves? It's a practical consideration.
Well, here's the question. Are they supposed to vote jointly or vote separately, sir?
There's a drafting error that
In the
will give
Constitution.
rise to a controversy. No? They thought that they would approve a unicameral body of Congress, and unfortunately that was voted down, and we retained the bicameral.
Right.
So in the provision constitutional
Constitution.
amendments, they did not amend it. No? So now it reads as if we have a unicameral.
Voting jointly.
Yeah, voting jointly. No? But of course, clearly that's a drafting error, but then again, that would have to be resolved.
What
in
are
the
your
court.
thoughts on that?
I'm convinced that they should vote separately
Okay.
because the Constitution, now that we have two houses of Congress, specifies instances where they vote jointly, where they vote separately, and if normal passage of law requires both houses voting separately, more so when we talk about amending the Constitution.
We will be taking a short